when you feel how strong you are and people saying like, oh, women shouldn't be strong, I say, watch me. I say, watch me. Watch all these women around me really breaking beliefs, doing what they don't think that they can do. Because there is nothing like a woman that knows how strong she is physically, but how strong she is mentally. She's unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
So you can cultivate a strong ass woman that also, yes, isn't just a jerk, like strength internally, still has, that soft side to her. The world better watch out because it's going to be better, be for the better. So I'm a big advocate of it, obviously.
Welcome to the Daughter Dearest Podcast with dynamic mother-daughter duo Simone and Olivia Canego, where they discuss the secrets of transformation and how to build bold confidence and unwavering resilience. From intimate conversations with inspiring guests to sharing their personal journeys of triumph and challenge, Simone and Olivia create a supportive space where every woman is encouraged to rise above her fears and love the woman in the mirror. Tune into the Daughter Dearest Podcast and join this special journey of connection and growth.
Hey, you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to this week's version of the Daughter Dearest Podcast. I'm Simone Canego.
And I'm Olivia Canego. And today we have a special guest. Yes, guys, I'm actually doing the intro today. Decided I'd take the burden off my mom for once. Kelsey Lensman is a nutrition and sports medicine specialist, entrepreneur, and highly sought-after speaker with a passion for women's fitness. She owns Empower Her Fitness that coaches women all around the country in their nutrition, fitness, and mindset. She also runs Empower Her Fitness events, which are all women's international strength events that challenge women to step out of their comfort zone and show themselves they're stronger than they think. Her unique approach to fitness has helped hundreds of women get results, grow their mindset, and become strong, confident versions of themselves. She's a 5-time bodybuilding competitor, 5-time powerlifting competitor, and loves pushing her own boundaries. She has successfully finished Mission 48, where she competed in 48 fitness competitions in 48 states in 48 days to fund Girls for Rocks, Ruling Our Experiences, a 501c3 that develops confident girls who can control their own relationships, experiences, decisions, and futures. Her goal is to inspire women to do hard things, push their limits, and build true self-confidence.
Wow. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
Right? Thank you for joining us, Kelsey.
Somebody reads that, I'm like, is that really me? Because it's funny when you hear it versus like be in your own body. So right. I'm just excited to be here. We were talking a little bit before about like, self-doubt and crushing all limiting beliefs and everything. So I'm so excited to jam out about this.
We're going to come back to the Mission 48 because that one just like, when I first heard you talk about it, I was like, okay, that blows my mind. But I kind of want to hear a little bit more about yourself. Were you always into fitness growing up? Is this something that you always wanted to do? I know when we're little, we have these ideas. I mean, I thought I was going to be a doctor and then I failed organic chemistry, twice. And so that never happened for me. So just, was this the path that you really thought you were going to take, or did something happen that kind of led you here?
Never in a million years would I think that I'd be doing the things I am today. And I think that's such a big part of what I like to get out in the world, because I think people see me today, they hear the Mission 48, they hear, all the things that I've done. And then not that they write me off, but it's like, oh, well, that's just her. She's always been like that. That's just something that she's always done. And I always say to them, I wish you were in my head like 4, 5, 10, 15 years ago, because the things that I'm doing today, she would have said, the Kelsey back then would have said, you are out of your dang mind. Like, you must be talking about somebody else, So to give a kind of a little bit of a history, I did grow up playing sport. So sports and athletics were in my world, but I was actually just writing a story about this too, is I never saw myself as the best athlete, right? Like I was on the team and I started, but I always thought, other girls were better than I was. And I really had to work hard to do the things that I did in sports and athletics. And, kind of long story short, my freshman year of high school, I got in a really bad four-wheeling accident, really bad. And I basically shattered the whole lower leg of my right leg.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. And at that moment, I remember that's when it changed my trajectory, because I remember when I was at the doctor's office and, they were doing all the scans and tests and getting me in the emergency surgery. They're like, Kelsey, you're not going to play basketball next year. I had big dreams of starting varsity my freshman year. And as a freshman in high school, like those are devastating news to hear. And I remember at that moment, I was like, watch me, like watch me. You might not think that I'm playing this year, but watch me. And I always think back to that time frame, and I'm grateful that I had such a hard experience, more physically, but also mentally at that time at such a young age, because it taught me how to overcome really hard circumstances. And it taught me how to persist through when you want to do something. And I did show up on my basketball court that freshman year. And through that, it just kind of compounded. And I realized that I wanted to help people the way that I was helped. So long story long, I never thought I'd be doing the things I am today. And that's why I like just keep pushing my limits and helping women push their limits. Because if they only saw their capability or knew their capability, I mean, they would crush everything that they actually go after.
I agree with you 100%. It's funny, not funny, but I actually have something in common with you. I had a four-wheeling accident, but I was older. I was probably, I don't know, my oldest son was 2 years old. So if I had to do the math, which I'm not going to do right now, but anyways, so we were at a friend's farm I was driving a four-wheeler up this massive a hill, and this root just pulled me off. And it landed on top of me and then rolled down the hill. So I cracked a rib. I couldn't breathe. They thought I was going to drop a lung. It was just luckily, but I still have, 30 years later, 20 something years later, I still have chronic pain from it, which is crazy. It's just,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah. I ignore it, but it's still there. So
That's crazy. Actually, and I forgot to put this point because I usually don't talk about this accident, but Simone, you reminded me of it. I think it also was such a perspective shift because at that night that I was, rushed to the hospital, I get goosebumps every time I think about this. There was a girl, and I don't know her name. I don't know how old she was, but I came in with the ATV accident, and there was a girl very similar to me came with the ATV accident, but she had a collapsed lung and she was fighting for her life.
wow.
I had a broken leg. She had a collapsed lung,
Yeah.
right? And so I really think back to time, faith's also big in my life of like, Kelsey, you have another opportunity. You could have been that girl. Hopefully she lived, God willing she lived. But I think that also drives me of you never know how short life is. One instant, it could take everything away, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that is a big passion and pursuit for me of, you know what, live as much as you can in the life that you have because you never know one instant to the next.
Absolutely. And I think that idea of perspective, because I know Olivia and I talk about this all the time of reminding each other, okay, like, is this really a big deal? Like, think about this in the moment. This might seem completely overwhelming, but if you look back at it in 10 years from now, will you even remember? Obviously the bigger things we do, but right now it seems like such a massive thing. But think about what other people are going through, and think about how fortunate we are that we get to wake up the next day and continue going on. So we do talk about that a lot.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, Mom. And I will say, looking back at all of these moments throughout high school where I was or even like early college, so bogged down with, high school dramas or math tests. And looking back now, the only thing that I remember is the positives. And I think actually just thinking about that right now, really, it's a good thing to remember that the negatives, they push you forward, but the positives are the thing that's going to stick out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's so good. And we make mountains out of molehills, and
yeah.
And this isn't just to like flip everything positive and say, okay, every experience is positive, but at the same time, I think this is why I love mountains. I love being out west because I feel so small in such a big world. And just that perspective, I know for me personally, I can make these little problems my whole world, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, my world is ending. And it's like, it's really not. It's just, I think it is. And so when I take a step back to look at it, it helps me a little bit.
Yeah. And 100%. I think it's a reminder that we have a choice every day. We have many choices every day. You can choose to be miserable. You can choose to be happy. It's all in how, you can't control the things that happen to you, but you can control how you respond to them. So yes, I'm not saying everything is, unicorns and rainbows and butterflies. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that when we're going through hard times, we can see the window out and we can figure out how to move forward. And it's so important that we do so that we're not miserable all the time. That's not what we're here for. That's not what we're meant for. We're here to make the world a better place.
Oh, preach. I will come to your church because you can just preach that.
So talking more about Empower Fitness, why did you decide to target women specifically? Why did it start? How did it start? Obviously, like we mentioned earlier, did you see it growing to the point it is today?
Yeah, no. And I personally struggle with nutrition and fitness. I tried all the diets. I've done almost everything. And this would have been kind of back in college for me. like I said, tried everything. And then I really 180'd myself my junior year to my senior year. And I was also in sports medicine at Ohio State. So I was in the medical world. I always thought I would be a physical therapist. I said, I have be physical therapist, have 2.5 kids, have a white picket fence, and my whole life was planned out, I swear. But then I had that big 180 for me, my junior to senior year. And I really just doubled down on how I was fueling my body better, how I was actually training, not just doing cardio 24/7, the people that I was around and like what I put in my mind, all of those things really came together for me. And through that time frame, like I said, I was also in clinicals at Ohio State, helping athletes with injury prevention. And between my kind of transformation, but then also really wanting to see not just, it's not just how you feel your body or how you train, but everything coming together. I was like, okay, Kels, like you get to and have to help people the way that you were helped and really pull all these areas together. Because in my opinion, it's you evolving as a human. It's not just a nutrition plan or not just a training plan. It's like really leveling up you as a human, right? And so 2 months before I graduated U2, I never thought I would do this, never thought I would own a business. But there was a quote that I will never forget. And this is why I have what I have today. It's be the change that you want to see. And I said, I want to see this change in women's nutrition and fitness, not just telling them to eat nothing or eat air chips, but really learning how to fuel their body right. I want to see the change in, all the medical and the fitness and all these worlds coming together, because it's not just about, your ankle injury. All of these other factors play into it too. And so I said, you know what? I don't know how to start an LLC. I don't know how to do all this stuff, but take the leap, right? And so kind of one thing led to the next. I started my company out of undergrad. And then, as you know, owning a business, it twists, it turns, it's up, it's down. It is a roller coaster ride and everything in between. But then it evolved to Empower Fitness. And then we have like our all women strength events. And then also we do nutrition and fitness coaching. So it's incredibly fulfilling. And especially for our events, I mean, we've had ages 7 to 72 years old. We're gonna have a 77-year-old in 2 weeks. And it's amazing to see these women really step out of their comfort zone and break beliefs of what they're capable of. And I say, like, the vehicle that I do it through is fitness, but what it does is it opens them up to everything else that they're capable of outside of that, which is pretty cool.
And what I love about this is that a lot of times I think women, when you're in like the corporate world or you're in whatever world you're in, like people talk about the catty women, like that they're not supportive of each other, right? And I think it's the most important thing that we can do when it comes to women is support each other, to elevate each other. So I feel like when you create an environment like this, you have people already on the sidelines building you up so that you can accomplish these goals, which I absolutely love, because I don't think we do enough of that as women.
Yeah, I agree. I always say the experience that started our events, because this did not start as an event company. I had no idea how to run events. I didn't know, what I was doing. But there was an experience that I had about 4 years ago. And there was, about 6 women in the gym with me. And this one woman never thought she'd be bench pressing, never thought she'd be in a gym. And I remember we were doing a max bench. It's when you pull the weight down to your chest and then push it up. And I had a certain amount of weight. And I remember she looked at me, she was shaking. She's like, Kelsey, I can't do this. I was like, take a breath. Like, you got this. She laid down on the bench. There was, 4 women around her. She slowly lowered that bar, then boom, she pushed it up. And I mean, the whole gym went crazy. The women were cheering. She popped off the bench. And I was like, we need to create that environment here. We need to create an environment of it's you versus you on that platform. And yes, it's a competition, but more than anything, like, we come together, and that's one of our rules for our events. And so it's been a really cool experience to have, and just see these women also build relationships outside of our events too.
Love it. So, Mission 48. This intrigues me beyond no doubt. So, I mean, I've done a couple of things. Like I will start with saying, like, I am not a fitness person. I did work out this morning. I'm getting back to it. Like I used to go to a boxing gym for years, and that honestly was my favorite.
I feel like you're
workout.
really discrediting yourself right now. This is like the woman that I knew growing up, and I think, like, you've talked about it on the podcast. We've had like a couple of bad years because of COVID and everything else, but you are so strong. One of her party tricks in college was like holding I don't know how long you could hold a plank for, but a ridiculous amount of time.
Yeah, true. I mean, I used to be really strong. Now I'm just happy not being injured and being somewhat fit. So now I'm trying to get a little bit more fit. That's the goal. So I'm not like digging on myself. I'm just being kind of real. But I've done a
You
couple
climbed
of
a
things.
mountain before.
Yeah, I climbed a
Yeah,
mountain. I
thank
had to get
you.
myself in big shape for that one.
mean,
That was a big one with climbing Kilimanjaro. And
yeah.
when we did the Inca Trail, I was in no shape, and that was really difficult because my dad had just passed away, but I still knew I needed to go and do it. I was like, "Can we take a break here? Can we take a break here?" It was a lot. It was a lot, but we did it. We finished it, and so I do think it's so important that we challenge ourselves. Again, do the things that we think we can't,
Yeah.
because that's where our growth happens. Is if we're comfortable every day and we don't try anything new, we don't challenge ourselves, it's really hard to see that, wow, we can inspire other people by doing these other things. And that's why that's so important to me. But so I want to hear all about Mission 48 because it's fascinating. Olivia and I were like, wait,
Yeah.
we need to know way more about this.
It's funny. People, they think, it's amazing or it's crazy. Like you have two different audiences that it depends how they look at it. But I'll tell you, and I mean, your story really hit home with me. I remember you shared it at one of the conferences that we were at, and I was like, she gets it, like she understands it. And this would have been, about 2.5 years ago now. I had this idea. I was watching a documentary called Iron Cowboy. And if you don't know who Iron Cowboy is, he is even 10 times crazier than I am. And he did the 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days with 5 kids in an RV.
Oh my God.
Wild, right? And as I was watching his documentary, it was inspiring to me, not just finishing it. But what I love the most is, yes, he showed the high moments, right? Him coming back to Utah and hundreds of people are there. But he also showed the really low moments, the moments that he wanted to quit, the moments that he said, why am I doing this? And I related that to my journey. There are moments in my fitness journey that I want to say, screw it. I don't want to do this anymore. There's moments in business, there's moments in life. And I think for me, like being very real about that is important, because I think people see the sunshine and rainbows version of it on social media. And it's like, no. It ain't always just what you see on social, So I sat on that idea for 2 years because honestly, this big thing scared me. I didn't know if it was just kind of a shiny object syndrome of like, oh, this sounds exciting, just to, get me away from what I was doing, or this was really a pursuit and a mission for me, So 2 years went by and, we were doing great work with the business that I have, but there was still something missing. Like this stirring kept coming up for me. And I'm like, okay, Kels, like you got to acknowledge it sometime. So this would have been about 1.5 years ago, because I did Mission 48 about 6 months ago. And I remember I walked my dog, Captain, and he actually came on Mission 48 with us. I walked my dog for about 5 hours, and I was just no phone, no podcast, no music. I was just thinking, do I do it? Do I not do it? The pros, the cons, everything in between. And this is a long story. But as I got home from that walk, I remember, like I said, faith's pretty big in my life. And I just wrote a prayer down. I was like, dear God, if Mission 48 is meant for me, please give me the biggest sign in the world, not like this little tap on the shoulder, but like hit me over the head with a, hey, go this direction. Because to be honest with you, I don't think Kelsey, the human, is capable of this. Like if I have, something else fueling me, I might be able to, but I don't see how I can do this right now. And so the next morning, I never had this happen before. I went to go train and work out like I normally train and work out every single morning. And for some reason that morning I listened to a podcast instead of music, and I never do that. But I put a podcast in. It was this podcast. I was interviewing this guy named Colin O'Brady. And in this interview, he talked about these missions that he went on and how he raised money for charity. And it was like really pushing his limits. And he said one thing that it almost sold the deal for me. He said, so many people live in the 5 and 6s. Like life is good, but not really great, but also not terrible. It's just kind of rinse and repeat 5 and 6 over and over and over again until, God forbid, they're 6 feet under, right? Because he said so many people want to go for the 9s and 10s, but they're too afraid to, because what if it becomes a 1? And I remember I was mid back squat. I had 185 pounds on my back. And as I came up, I'm like, I'm freaking doing it. Like, I don't know how I'm going to start. I don't know, how to pull this together. There's no playbook for this. But I told myself, like, you just have to take the first step. And so that next day, I put a laundry list down of about 150 things I would think that I need to do to finish this and just even start this. And I said, oh God, like we got a long project ahead. But kind of one thing led to the next. And I just kept, tacking one of the task items off. there were a lot of like quote unquote failures, or honestly for me, it's lessons along the road. There was a lot of successes, but also a lot of bumps in the road. And about 10 months later is when I finished it. So it was absolutely crazy. And it was originally going to be in 48 weeks, but then about 4 months before I left, we switched it to 48 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild. The logistics were absolutely insane for it.
Yeah. How do you even get from place to place and in time for a competition in 48 days? And I'm thinking about the guy that you were talking about who did the 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 states. Like, how is that possible? Like, to just the logistics of it, I guess.
The logistics, it's funny because, people, like I said, people see the end of it, but they don't see when I literally printed off a big picture of the United States, outlined of the states, and I was just like, I put a ruler and I did dots around the United States, and it was this little kind of bootstrapped way. I would call different gyms around that area, because in every state, what I did is I threw a free event for women or girls to come join me. And so I basically logistically had to put on 48 different big events in 48 states and get to each one.
So you ran these events. These were competitions that you did. Like,
yeah. Besides a few, like I did a Spartan race. There were a few runs that I did and CrossFit events that were sanctioned events. But I mean, there's no Spartan race on a Tuesday,
Yeah.
So that's where you had to think really outside of the box and just put together all these crazy events, which was insane.
Wow. And you took a film crew with you, correct?
I did. Yeah. So we have all the videos from the whole entire trip, before, after, everything in between. And then not this year, probably end of next year is when we'll come out with the documentary. So there's a lot. I will tell you, that's a whole nother world. There's a lot to get done for that, and a lot of also, funding to do for it. But I'm super passionate about it because my idea was spurred from a documentary, and I think if people can see others pushing their limits, my big thing is it'll get them to think, what am I capable of? Just like I did. And so hopefully that'll help, inspire others to go after theirs too.
Liv, going back to what you said about how like I was talking myself down, I think I was trying to be more realistic, like not talking myself down, but being like, you know what? I am not the super fitness guru, but I did this, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be the super fitness guru to be able to do these things. You just have to find that spark and move forward, and understand when you do move forward, other people see what you do and they're like, oh, wait, she did that? I want to try that. Or I want to try something. I want to try something different. So I think that's probably what I was, when I think back about that. Yeah. I don't want to like disparage myself. That's not what I meant to do. But what I was saying is just that because I am not the fitness queen, but I still set the goal, put in the work, and made it happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think about that too. I mean, I'm kind of taking it a level deeper into it, but I'm really big too about like your identity really plays out in your reality, right? And so it's actually kind of a cool story about our events is, our women, they're not like, kind of like you said, they're not these big fitness gurus, there's moms, there's grandmas, there's daughters, they're full-time workers. This isn't the come in and lift 500 pounds and that's the only thing you do. And, you just post on social media the rest of the time. They're normal humans, and there was this, one of our clients, and she did our events. I put a message in our group message for all the athletes. I'm like, hey, athletes, you have, whatever, the event on Saturday, and I was giving details, but I called them athletes. And she paused and she told me this a few days later. She goes, Kels, I've never been called an athlete before. And she goes, that moment changed my entire life. Because I said, now it's not only something that you're not, like you're embodying, you are an athlete. If you go train, if you go work out, you're an athlete. And what's cool about that is there's kind of a whole diagram that I have, but your identity will form your reality, like I said. And so if you can embody, I am boom, 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 an athlete, I am whatever that is, your actions and your behaviors are going to start to be in alignment with it. And so I think it's really cool how you're, opening up of like, hey, I'm not this big fitness guru, but at the same time, make that switch for all these women out there that need to embody it. You ain't disqualifying, you are an athlete now. And I think for especially women, challenging them to think differently about themselves, game changer, because then they're going to really start to break beliefs there.
Yeah. And that's why another thing we talk a lot about is positive affirmations. And I call them my mirror moments, but really, and using that same I am, like I am strong, I am capable, I am worthy, I am loved, I am more than enough. All these things that we don't tell ourselves enough, or we rely on other people And we think that's where we're going to get where our value comes from. And it doesn't, it comes from within, and that we have to understand that we are capable of all these things. We have to believe in ourselves. And it's so important that we talk about it openly so that other women realize that they're not alone in their struggles, and that there's endless possibilities by just asking yourself what you want.
Oh, so good. I'm not going to get on a tangent. I could, but that's so good.
Yeah. So thinking about, listening to all of this and all these things that you've done, what gets you out of bed in the morning? Like, what's your driving force?
Well, I'll tell you, I do not just spring out of bed. People think I just wake up and the butterflies are chirping and she's like, oh, let's go train at 5 a.m. I was like, no. I'm like still 10, 15 years into this. And I'm still like, oh, but my dog is so comfy right here, you know? I will tell you, and it's a few things, but I think about all the versions of me 5, 6, 7 years ago that never thought that she could do what she is today, you know? And I know there's millions of people out in this world that are completely disqualifying themselves of things that they want to do, but they don't think they can, of things that they don't even realize that they want because they've automatically shut down that want muscle for them, you know? And I think what really gets me out is, yes, expanding and pursuing my potential, right? I love pushing my limits, and just not even just physically, but like, who all can I become? I think that's so exciting for me, right? But it's also, who all can I become to show others and pave the path for others of, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too, you know? And so I think that is what gets me up. That's what, you know, made me do Mission 48. And it was a wild year putting it together. I mean, the hours, the time, the energy, but it's also like, hey, you know what, if I can be an example for somebody, maybe they're going to be the world changer. Maybe they're going to, you know, be that ripple effect for others. So I will say that's it. And like I said, faith's big. I think God gave me this potential for a reason. So I always say I want to get up to heaven and be like, you freaking did it, girl.
Yeah,
and so that's also a big driver for me too.
Do you feel like with everything that you've learned from, going back to Mission 48 for a second, what's the biggest thing you took away from it? And do you feel now that after you've accomplished something like that, that other things that used to seem hard are now easier?
It was a perspective shift. I'll be honest with you. And I'll be honest with you. There were some things that panned out and went exactly how I thought they were going to go, and even better. And there were some things that did not pan out and go the way that I thought they were, you know, very honest. And that's in pursuit of whatever goal that you have, right? Whether it be fitness, business, putting a campaign together. There's some things where it's like, okay, this is it. And then there's some things where like, man, I learned a lot of lessons on that. And ooh, that was painful kind of to go through, right? And so I will say the biggest thing that I took away, kind of to lead off of your last question too, was the perspective shift that I had coming off of Mission 48. I did not think I was going to get this out of it. And what I mean by that is I had a whole pattern interrupt in my life for 48 days. No day was the same. I did not just wake up, go train, go work, go to bed, and rinse and repeat for 48 days. Everything was different. And after I came back, it was kind of like a come to Jesus moment. I said, okay, what do you want the rest of your life to look like? Do you want it to be like before Mission 48? Like, is that your max, you know? Or I kind of evaluated every area of my life, my relationships, my business, my social life, you know, my emotional capacity. I said, okay, like, what do you want this to look like after? And I think for me, you don't need to have Mission 48 to do. But I think a lot of people just get in this kind of monotonous roller coaster. Wake up, go to bed, you know, go work and just do the same thing over, have a weekend, go do some fun things on the weekend and come back. But it's like, truly take a moment to evaluate, am I on the right trajectory, right? Do I want these areas in my life to keep moving in this direction? Or you don't need to 180 your life. Or is there an area of your life that you're like, oh, I actually want to grow in this? Or, hey, you know what? I don't like this right now. Let me, you know, do something different. And like I said, I think that pattern interrupt for me, I thought it was going to be something completely different outcome wise than what I thought it was. But it was such a powerful moment and powerful time for me, because my life looks so different than it did 6 months ago after it. So that was huge for me.
Amazing.
Let's talk about confidence a little bit, because I feel like that's a really important part of this whole journey. One of the things that was in your media kit was the difference between perceived confidence and true self-confidence. Would you mind explaining the difference between the two?
Oh, don't get me started on this one. So the reason why I'm big about confidence and why I like to talk about confidence is because back in high school, college, I wasn't the girl that, was just this elated confidence. I was the girl that sat at the room, and people saw me differently back then. Like, they thought I was that girl, but I didn't feel like it internally.
Mhm.
I was the girl that would see somebody presenting up in front, and I'm like, how do they do that? Like, I couldn't do that. I'm sweaty. My armpits are sweating. My hands are shaking. Like, how do they do that? And I always thought, that's just for them, not me, right? I thought they were born with something that I guess I just wasn't born with. I got the short and the stick, and you know what? That's how my life's going to be, right? Until I realized through, like I said, the kind of 180 in college, that confidence is built. It's not just happen, right? It's not this, I always call it the confidence fairy. The confidence fairy just come and taps you on your head and says, okay, now you're ready. Now you're confident. It's like, no, that's not how it goes, right? It's built. And how I define confidence is it's you keeping promises to you. When you realize that self-confidence is just self-trust, game changes for you. Literally, the game changes for you, because then you realize, well, if it's self-trust, and then if it's something that, I can build within myself, that means I just got to keep promises to myself. So what that means is, hey, you know what, this glass of water that I say that I'm going to wake up and go drink in the morning, well, if I do that, and if I compound that over time, I'm building a reputation with myself. I'm building that confidence with myself, right? And people don't understand how you correlate drinking water to confidence until you really get it. Because then when you know that you do the things you say you're going to do, nobody can mess with you. Nobody can take that away from you. Because I can take away, that next amazing handbag or that car or that relationship. That people can take those things away, right? They can't take away my reputation with myself. And so when I allow myself to see confidence through that lens, one, it's available to everybody, but also two, I know when I'm kind of lacking it a little bit, okay, what do I need to do to build it? It's an ability to build it, because you don't just get to this mountaintop and then boom, you're confident forever, right? When you step in new arenas, you ain't gonna be confident, I'll tell you that. But once again, are you keeping that reputation with yourself? If so, you're gonna have the confidence to keep reaching for more. You might not realize you can do this thing, but at the end of the day, you can fall back to yourselves, and that's what's built. So I'm going to step off my soapbox, but that is what I'm so big about confidence.
Yeah.
Also too, I'm going to step back on for a second. The perceived confidence is you scrolling through social media. You think everybody has their life together. You think, oh, they have it perfect. A lot of those people, I don't know all of them, but some of them that I know that perceive that certain way, they lack that built internal confidence, that earned confidence within themselves, right? So you can post the beautiful picture, but if you can't lay your head down at night and feel that confidence internally, I don't care what you perceive. For me, it's about that earned confidence. And so that's what I really want to instill in especially young girls of, you can earn it within yourselves, and it's available to everybody.
Yeah, this is such a great conversation, because it's also exactly what I talk about all the time is that you build bold confidence from the inside out. It's not something that you just have naturally. I mean, some people have a different version that might be a little bit that way, but you don't just start off confident. You have to work for it. You have to trust in what you're doing, and you can't let other people tell you something and that is absolutely the right thing then. And that's where the struggle lies, is that you're right. What we see on social media, you can't get your value from that, right? That's a tiny moment in time. Like, people will look at social media and be like jealous of other people, and like, they're only showing their shiny moments. Like, show their difficult moments. I did a video this week, and it was about, like, last week was crappy, like real deal. It was not an easy week. And I think we have to be real, and we have to show that this is how we move forward. And so I always love talking about confidence. It's like my favorite thing to talk about, because I was someone who struggled with years. Yeah. With self-doubt for years. And it really, the moment that changed my life was climbing Kilimanjaro. That really changed everything for me, because I set the goal, put in the work, and I believed in myself, and I talked myself through it. And then I realized what I was capable of when I summited the mountain. And then I said, okay, why am I second guessing everything else in my life? This is what's so important. Like, try these things. So
can I ask you a question? Can
I
tables a little bit? So, and Olivia too, I'll be interested to hear kind of your response is, what did you learn about yourself in that? Like, what was the, oh my gosh, this was the moment, or this was the time that I'm going to take with me for the rest of that experience. And Olivia too, if there's something in your life that was like, oh, that's when I realized that this thing is all internal for me.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I realized that I was, well, multiple things, holding myself back for so long. But the biggest thing that I thought about was that I am capable of anything that I want to do, but the key is I have to want it, right? So a lot of times we do things because we think we should, or we think that that's what we're supposed to do. And I would tell you, a lot of people get caught up in that cycle. Well, I can't do this because my husband says it's not okay, or I can't do this because that'll take time away from my kids. And self-care is not selfish, guys. You have to do things for yourself. And so that realization of that I was capable of this and that I really wanted this, those two things together really will stick out forever.
So good.
I feel like I'm still waiting for my moment, I guess. I don't know if I've had that like come to terms moment with your life of what you want, or just any like major event that's truly inspired me that in that way.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're young.
Exactly.
I'm gonna get you at an Empower event. I'll tell you once I get you there. All the
Yes.
things will break, baby.
100%.
Which is actually a great segue, because what advice would you say to, or would you give to a woman who's just starting on her fitness journey? Olivia is actually very good. She goes to all kinds of stuff for fitness.
I struggled in high school. I was not athletic and I did not take care of myself and I didn't work out. And when you're in high school, being anything except smaller is seen as like overweight. And so I lost a bunch of weight in high school, but I wasn't taking care of myself. I was just like eating less, not really working out. And this year, my senior year, I was like, I don't feel good.
Are you a senior in high school?
I'm a senior in college.
Oh, I was like,
no, in college. Yes, my senior year in college.
She left out the segue there.
Well, yeah, the segue was like, okay, well, you lost weight, congrats, and then you move on with your life. And this year I was like, this is like, I can't even walk up the stairs without getting winded. I can't even walk down the block without getting winded. And I don't know if you have ClassPass where you are, but I decided to take it easy because I've never been someone that loves working out. I was like, okay, let me try yoga. And I did yoga very consistently. And then I took my first Pure Barre class in January. And then that was the moment I was like, okay, this like clicks for me. This is something I enjoy doing. I can genuinely feel a difference afterwards. And it's like, I actually will go. I think my biggest thing is like, okay, I booked the classes. Will I show up?
Yep. No, I love that. And I mean, we work with women all ages. I mean, from our coaching standpoint, I mean, we have people in college to 70 years old. And I always say specifically for women, I mean, we could go on forever about the, lack of a better way to say it, BS that's out in the fitness and nutrition world,
Yeah.
It's what we have to teach women to unlearn is incredible, and I thought the same dang things. I thought, well, you know what? I feel too big right now. I just want to be smaller. And I thought so many terrible thoughts, to be honest with you. And I tried all the things. And I always tell our women, when we can switch the mentality of strong over skinny, game changes for you.
Yeah.
When we can really get you to feel how strong you are. And this happens all the time in the gym is, women will come in, they've tried all the classes, they've done all the things. And I teach them, how to do a bench press or, just the fundamental things. And I just had this on Saturday. This is such a good example. We work with women all over the country, but we do team lifts. I live in Columbus, Ohio. So the local crew will come and, we'll do some team lifts. And there's this one woman that, I mean, she used to work out a little bit back in the day, has come in and we were doing bench press. We don't bench press all the time, but I guess it's just what I'm bringing up so much. And I had her, do X amount of reps. I think it was like 5 reps. And then she put 75 pounds on the bar. And I did what was called an AMRAP, as many reps as you can do at the end with really good form. She hit 12 of them. And I told her, I said, Jennifer, you are going to hit 100 tomorrow. Like it is going to be so easy for you. And she was like, you got to be out of your mind. Like there's no way. And I said, watch me. And so we're going to bring her back in a few weeks and she's going to max out. But it's like, when I can make that switch for women to realize, oh my gosh, I'm so much stronger than I think that I can. And what they don't realize is either the body composition that they want or the longevity or health. Muscle is so important. And so what we're really push those limits with women. You don't need to be a power lifter. I'm not trying to make you a man and, hit the door frame on the way out. But when you know, number one, how to fuel your body well, and then also strength train appropriately, and then add the classes in as you want to, the game changes for it, And so I don't even remember the question that you asked, but I'm going to stop there because I could keep going on about that.
I really like the strong over skinny. I think that is something that totally needs to change within like this. I mean, I just think all of like fitness lore targeted towards women is all about getting the perfect curves, but strong women are awesome. Like being able to lift your suitcase over your head in an airplane is more powerful than fitting into those size 0 pants, for me at least.
Yeah. And you'll feel like a badass, and I tell people, because they also hear that and they say, well, I'm just going to gain all this muscle and, be huge. And I'm like, no, you're going to get the body composition that you want if, you do it strategically. So if we could break that belief in women, man, I'd be riding my something happy horse home, because that would be so helpful for them.
I love that.
I feel like on that subject, what would you say to people who say women shouldn't have big muscles?
Oh my gosh. Well, I will first say, there's a woman that I know super well, and she always says she lifts, she eats her protein, does the creatine. She goes, Kels, I've been trying to get bulky for the last 10 years and I still can't get bulky, So I'll first say, breaking the belief that that's going to make you massively bulky. If that's not your goal, it ain't going to make you massively bulky. I'll tell you that, number one. But also number two, especially when you feel how strong you are and people saying like, oh, women shouldn't be strong. I say, watch me. Watch me. Watch all these women around me really breaking beliefs, doing what they don't think that they can do. Because there is nothing like a woman that knows how strong she is physically, but how strong she is mentally. She's unstoppable, So you can cultivate a strong ass woman that also, yes, isn't just a jerk, like strength internally, still has, that soft side to her. The world better watch out, because it's going to be better, be for the better. So I'm a big advocate of it, obviously.
So we could talk forever here, and I have so many more questions, but I'm going to just ask a couple more and then close it out for the day. But so obviously Liv and I have a great relationship. I have 6 kids, and she's the only one of 6 that would be willing to do a podcast with me. But we have like a really good banter back and forth. And one of the things we like to ask people is, what is something that your mother told you where she was wrong? Because, we're like, oh no, we're right. You have to listen because I told you and I'm right. And I know I'm wrong all the time.
I've been thinking about this literally 24 hours nonstop. And I love my mom. We have a really good relationship. And I'll be very honest. I'm not just trying to be rainbows and sunshine. Like, I don't remember one thing that she said where I'm like, ooh, that was wrong. But I will say one thing that, if I could get this woman to see her capability, is she has so much more capability than she could ever imagine, from a strength standpoint, from she is a businesswoman. She is a badass there. She's a badass mama, right? But if I could really get her to see how freaking amazing she is, game over, And so there's really nothing wrong that I'm like, ooh, I really disagree with it. I love her. She worries about me a lot. She's very, anxious about the things that I do, because I do crazy stuff all the time.
Yes, you do.
I do. So it comes honestly, to be honest with you. But if I could really just get her to see herself from a different light, I think too, that would have changed so much, for herself, for just everything going forward. So like, I know that's kind of a sunshine answer, but that's honestly what it is.
It's actually a good answer. I mean, I would tell you that my mom did give some not great advice. I mean, she's an amazing mom, but her biggest issue was that she struggled to believe in herself. And she had an amazing career. She became a doctor when that was like kind of unheard of. And but she struggled with self-doubt so bad, and she didn't realize, like, even now she's turning 85 and she'll be like, oh, I'm so dumb, I can't do this. And I was like, no, you're not. You just haven't done it before. So let's learn how to do it. And next time you'll be fine. Don't be so hard on yourself. Sometimes I feel like I'm the parent in that relationship too, which is like kind of fun. But it's like, for every woman out there, just that idea that we are all unique. We are all capable of so much, and we have to stop being so hard on ourselves and just realize what we can do. So
Yeah. And I think actually there is something that kind of piggybacks off of that. She always would say, and I love her for this, but she will always say, like, I'm just not the fitness person. I'm not the workout type of person. Right. And we talked about identity on this podcast. And if I could break that belief of her,
Mhm.
game over, because then she would align with that. So I think, just realizing how much identity plays into it. And like I said, she's so much more capable than what she could ever imagine. And
Yeah.
that's every single one of us, to be honest with
yeah,
you.
absolutely. So we usually close out the podcast. Well, we'll have you tell us where everybody can find you in a minute. But Olivia has this fantastic calendar that we like to read a quote from every time we record, called the Unfuck Yourself calendar. Bleep, bleep, if I have to bleep it out. That really, it's fun to hear, because a lot of times it aligns with what we're talking about. So tell us, Olivia.
Okay. Why would you spend a lifetime looking for confidence or passion or love when these expressions already exist deep within you, with all of the majesty and power of the oceans and the mighty span and magnitude of the endless mountain range? It really always gets it right on target.
mic
It's
drop.
very weird.
Isn't it funny? Like, so,
Every
and that's why
single
we
time.
continue it, because there's like such a connection, and I'm like, okay, there we go. Yeah.
Wait, can you read it one more time?
Yeah. Why would you spend a lifetime looking for confidence or passion or love when these expressions already exist deep within you, with all of the majesty and power of the oceans and the mighty span and magnitude of an endless mountain range?
That hit.
Right.
It's within you. Everything that you want
Yes.
is within you. Look inward. Quit looking outward.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So good.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so fun doing that, because we're like, oh, what's it going to be? What's it going to be?
That was perfect.
So please tell people where they can find you. Everything will be in the show notes, guys. So take a look there. And also, any last bit of advice that you want to leave us with.
Oh man, after that quote, I don't know if I can follow it up. But I will say it's pretty easy, at Kelsey Lensman on all things social. Instagram, I'm mainly on. I'm not a TikToker yet, but I'm also doing a lot on YouTube too. So at Kelsey Lensman, and then our company, Empower Her Fitness Official, is everything also on YouTube, on Instagram. We do a lot of education there, from technique and training and just nutrition too. So those are two of the main places. And then last thing, anything that I would impart you with, I mean, you all hit the nail on the head, to be honest with you. I would just say, I'm a big action girl. Is yes, listening to the things are great, but there's a difference between motion and action. Motion is I'm listening, action is I'm doing, right? So I'm going to challenge the audience, whoever is listening to this, okay, take one action item, whether that be, message you two on Instagram and ask a question, whether that be message me, whether that be drink your water in the morning. Go ahead, take whatever little thing that you heard that's like, oh, that really hit deep, make it an actionable item, and then tag us all on social. We really want to see you win, whoever's listening to this. But remember, motion and action are different. So let's get us into motion and really be able to make some steps going forward.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yes.
And that's a great way to close us out. So thank you so much for being here today, Kelsey. This was amazing. I know we could talk for hours. I'm sad I'm not going to see you next week, but I look forward to seeing you again in person in the future. And for everybody out there listening, thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of the Daughter Dearest Podcast. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Daughter Dearest Podcast with Simone and Olivia Canego. We hope this episode has made your day just a little bit brighter and given you the inspiration you need to confidently go about your week. Always remember to be authentically you. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to connect with them on Instagram at Daughter Dearest Podcast, at Simone Canego, and at Olivia Canego. Till next time.